no matter how good and how great the work you do is, somebody always gonna say something bad about you.
The Empire Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Empire. And yes, we have another great guest today. And the gentleman, the father, businessman, he's part of the board of the San Bernardino City Unified School District. And that gentleman's name is Danny Tillman. Danny, welcome to The Empire.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Man, we're so glad to have you, man. And how's your day been?
Had a good day. Yeah,
Not too bad?
not too bad. Went by and saw my mom. That's always a good thing.
You saw your mom?
I did.
Okay, how's she doing?
She doing good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How old is she?
Mom is 84, be 85 in March.
Okay. What a blessing,
It
huh?
is a blessing, yes.
Wow. And wow, we're in 2025 now, right?
That's right.
Isn't it kind of crazy to say that 2025?
I'm just happy and blessed to be able to say it.
Yeah, it feels like we're living in the future that we used to see the Jetsons and all that stuff, right?
Well, we're not as far along as the Jetsons, but it's the future.
Yeah. So Danny, for people who may not know who you are and the things that you do, can you please let everybody know who you are and the things that you do?
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in San Bernardino. Worked for the county for 42 years. Did technology work, and I've been on the school board for 30 years this year. Got elected in 1995 for the first time, and my whole goal, even out of high school, has been just to help as many people be successful as possible.
What do you define as success?
Being able to enjoy your life to the fullest.
Okay. I like that. And basically spreading that over to each individual and more individuals throughout this community and throughout the world.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. That's cool. It's a cool mission to be on. Do you feel like that was your purpose?
How about what?
Do you feel like that's your purpose to help people find things
I've made it my purpose. Yeah, I
Mm.
felt really fortunate to grow up in San Bernardino. Had parents that gave me the tools to be successful in life. Made education a priority, but also just teaching me how to accomplish things and solve problems. So we financially we were poor, but love just had abundance of love and support in my childhood in my years coming up, which made a huge difference in my life. Saw a lot of my peers that didn't have that same support, and I always felt that if some of those young folks had been raised in my house, they would have the potential to be just as successful as I had been, or done even more.
Yeah, and it's been statistically proven that two family households do really well and even single father households do very well. So shout out to you. And speaking about, growing up in San Bernardino and family, can you give us a quick, as much as you can, a brief story
Sure,
about how you grew up, where you grew up, all the way up to the man that you are today?
sure. Uh, like I said, I was born at St. Bernardine's Hospital, youngest of five kids. Attended Roosevelt Elementary School, Roosevelt Elementary School, Roosevelt Middle School, and San Bernardino High School. Went to San Bernardino Valley College and graduated with an A degree. Transferred to Cal State San Bernardino for about a quarter, and then I was accepted to Cal Poly Pomona Electrical Engineering. I went to Cal Poly for about a year, and then came back and landed a job in the county's computer section. Actually, when I was in high school, um, I got a job at the county in the summer before my senior year. It was called a student aid job. At the end of the summer, I asked my boss if was there a possibility I could work during my senior year because I had so many units I didn't need to take a lot of classes in order to graduate. So he allowed me to work a half day, and just getting that job just opened my eyes to tons of uh, job positions that I didn't know existed, and also to the county's retirement system. So it planted a seed very early on about the value of a retirement. So because of that I was able to retire at 59 years old uh, with a substantial retirement. So along the way, joined a fraternity, and right out of high school, we did a program. We went back to the California Gardens and the housing projects on the west side of Medical Center. At that time, it was Muscat, doing tutoring and giving out scholarships, and then being involved in the NAACP. Then I had a program called Black Future Leaders I got involved in 1988. We took students that had a 3.0 GPA leaving middle school, and once they got to high school, we took them to Cal State San Bernardino. For a while, it was a week, then later it was the weekend. But we just brought in African American people who were successful in their career, whether it was pilots, or doctors, or nurse, people in the entertainment field, and had them tell their unique story about how they attained that success, just to show young people that they were human beings just like them. And if they could accomplish it, that person, then the young person could do the same thing. And I did that from 88 until COVID, about 2021, 2022.
Wow. Representation does matter.
No doubt about it.
Seeing what people that look like you can do gives you the fruition that, hey, I can do this too.
Yes.
What were some of the careers when you were in high school that you're like, wow, I didn't know this existed, that you found out?
Well, actually, I took a drafting class in high school, which was drawing maps and things like that.
Okay.
And then,
Wow, that doesn't exist at all anymore.
yeah, so now it's called CAD, so they do industrial drawing, but it's all computerized now.
Mhm.
But because I had that class and when I did the interview, I was able to work in water resource hydrology and then surveyors drawing maps. So I didn't know at the time that those careers existed for engineers, engineer techs, civil engineers. And then, of course, in the early 80s, personal computers didn't exist
Okay.
at all. So I was actually working at the gas pumps, pumping gas for the county. At that time, they had a gas station, so I would put gas in the cars and trucks, put oil, check the oil, and put oil in there. But the man who was in charge of the gas pumps was also in charge of the computer section. So while I was at Cal Poly Pomona, I was taking classes. I would bring my calculus books or my physics books in this shed that had windows, and they would see me doing my homework in there. So he knew I was in college. So one day he said to me, I know you've been going to college for a couple of years. You should be close to graduation. What's your major? And I told him it was computer science because I knew the county had jobs in computers and not engineering.
Okay.
So he said, okay, I'm gonna help you get some experience. And he got me a job working in the county's data automation. So that was my introduction into actually getting hands-on experience with computers. Well, when I showed up to data automation, I had on a gas station attendant's uniform,
Okay.
dark blue pants and a light blue shirt with my name on it. And when I went into the office and told the lady who was in charge of the computer section that I was there to report to work, she looked at me and was like, so you're the guy who's supposed to do computers? And I told her, yeah, I said, Elza Perry had me come here. I'm majoring in computer science. But you could tell she was very disappointed because she felt like they were sending the gas
gas
station
guy.
attendant to
Mhm.
come and do computer work. But that was the start. Because she was so disappointed, she told me, you're not going to do work on the mainframe or the mini computer. We're going to let you do the work on the personal computers because they were brand new at the time.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of mission critical apps associated with personal computers at the time. But all of a sudden, people started writing apps for the personal computer. And within 2 or 3 years, then all the businesses in the Environmental Public Works Agency were adopting the software that you could run on these computers. So it was just a paradigm switch
Real quick.
right in front of us. Yeah.
Mhm.
So they went from doing mapping by hand to mapping using computers.
Yeah.
They went from doing spreadsheets on paper to spreadsheets on the computer.
Microsoft Excel type of thing, right?
Before Excel was Lotus 123.
Okay.
And before Microsoft Word, it was WordPerfect. So I became an expert in those, and then I was able to help all the employees. There were probably about 500 employees in that building, and I became a key person for support. And
Ah,
and so, make a long story short, that lady left, and then I assumed the role of responsibility for all those departments, like regional parks, traffic,
mm,
you know, hydrology, water resources. It was a lot of departments in that one building, and I got to experience supporting all the different types of businesses and software applications. So that really was the start of my career in technology.
yeah, it's so cool because it almost seemed like she tried to like shun you out,
She did.
but it flipped on her
It did.
and made you. What it reminds me of something in the Bible, like the last shall be first and the first shall be last.
Yes.
That's what it reminds me of.
Yes. And when I was working there, I there was a gentleman in my neighborhood. He had a red 5.0 Mustang, and I was really into cars, still am.
Okay.
And me and him talked, and he told me he was in the military for a while, and then he had came out and started working in the defense industry.
Okay.
And he said, make sure in your job you learn everything you can, even things about the positions that are above your
A
position,
grade. Okay. Okay.
because at some point a key person is going to leave, and you'll be able to step into that place. And he gave me that tip, and I actually did that. So when that lady left, I was able to easily be the guy that they went to and said, "Hey, we want you to fill this role."
Ooh, what a gem.
Yes,
Beautiful gem.
started my career. For me, because we didn't have a lot of money growing up, my mom and dad always told me if you do good in education, you'll be able to get the job or create your own business, to create the wealth, to buy all the materialistic things that you want. And that part came true to me because of being able to work in technology. But it also created a mindset. I went to work for one purpose only, and that was to make money.
Yeah. What else for it, right?
No, some people do it because it's what they love, what they enjoy.
Mm,
That had nothing to do with me and my
okay.
career. It was doing computer work at the time was that you could do that work and make the most amount of money for the level of education that was required. At that time, the only people that made more money at the county were the doctors and some of the lawyers. So I knew at that time that technology was where I wanted to go for my career because of the amount of money I'd be able to make.
Smart. Super smart. So basically, you didn't do technology because you're interested. You was like, "What's the most money I can make?"
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And
Okay.
then for me, once I made my money, I could do the things that I enjoyed.
I like it.
And part of that was helping in my community. Growing up, my dad was real big on ensuring that we learned our Black history.
What's your
So
dad's name? I feel like we should represent his
my
name.
late father was Earl Tillman, and my mother is still alive, is Ruby Blondell Tillman. But so we went to the library as a kid to read books about Black history, everything from the kings and queens of Africa to the tragedy of people being enslaved to the modern day scientists and inventors in the United States of America.
Right.
As a kid, one of my heroes was Hannibal, who crossed the Alps.
To fight the Roman Empire.
That's right, Hannibal a Carthage. So he was one of the greatest general ever. And at that time, as a kid, you would look in the book, and there would still be an image there of a white man being Hannibal, even though he was from Africa.
Yeah.
The first time I saw a picture depicted of Hannibal as an African was when Budweiser did a thing called the Kings and Queens of Africa, and they
Wow.
invested time and money in trying to render the best picture of what Cleopatra and other African kings and queens would really have looked like during that time.
That is wild.
Yeah,
Budweiser of all people. Shout out to you, Budweiser,
yeah, exactly.
Anheuser-Busch. Shout out to you.
They
I
did
think they
do that.
recently were going through some issues about like having like a trans woman represent Budweiser recently.
Maybe so, yeah.
That is gnarly. Wow. How times have changed, right?
Yeah.
Didn't Hannibal have a mission to avenge his father? Was that the whole
I
reason,
don't know
right?
that. I just know it was
Okay.
Hannibal Carthage.
Okay.
And the big deal was he took the elephants over the
The Alps, right?
Alps, and no one expected that to happen.
Yeah. Man, what a crazy time. That's amazing. Um, in my opinion, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like your father and mother are very educated and smart to be forward thinking to say, you know what, I need to teach my kids Black history beyond slavery.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know, because in my opinion, it seems like if you find a modern parent today that's in their 20s, is that the first thing that's on their mind to teach their kids?
No.
You
No.
know what I mean?
And my father was very educated. My mother, because she got pregnant and had my brother when she was 17,
Okay.
she was a teenage mother.
Okay.
But the love that she gave us was unmeasurable. So it was a good combination. We had a
Yes.
stern father who valued education, graduated from Cal Poly Pomona with a BS degree, uh, a real disciplinarian, and then a mother who just had this overabundance of love, who came to all our events at school and all the open houses, and
Yes.
would participate in everything to a fault. My mother went to so many events at my school. I would tell her, "Mom, let somebody else's parent volunteer. You don't have to go to
Awesome.
everything."
Everything, right? Was there PTA back then?
It was the PTA, and she was at the meeting. And when they had potlucks, we took the napkins and the forks because we didn't have a lot of money. That was the cheapest thing that you could provide. But they were both involved with us. A lot of turmoil in the house, but in terms of supporting the kids, we were their top priority.
I love that, and I think that's important to have that balance between the motherly love and the disciplinary father, and
No doubt about it.
that balance and that direction. And I like to think of as I get older, I think of marriage as an agreement and a partnership, and people have to know their roles.
That's right.
And in my opinion, it seems, and I guess there's evidence nowadays, it's showing that people don't know their roles. People don't want to do anything, and it's like everything's upside down. It's like what do they call it? The Twilight Zone. It's like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of wanted to get into, because I believe you're retired now, right? You
I
were
am
saying?
retired, yes.
So I guess two things. What made you decide to be on the board, and how's life in retirement, and what's retirement look like for you?
Right. So the board question is easier to answer. When I was in my 30s, I was active in the NAACP.
Okay.
And before that, I could tell you I did Black Future Leaders also. So I was volunteering, helping young people. So a lot of people in the community knew me. And there came a time when, in the early 30s, we were fighting to get the district to hire African Americans as administrator. There was a time in the school district where they only had one Black African American male administrator in the entire district. So
How big is the district?
San Bernardino City Unified School District. So
Yeah.
we were fighting for representation at the time. During that time, there were two teachers, Robbie Jordan and Willie James, and the district was going to fire them. My mother came up from church and said, "Pray for Robbie James and Willie Jordan. The district is going to fire them. One's worked there for 25 years. One's worked there for 27 years."
Why are they firing them? What's their...
And that was the whole concern. No one really knew why they were saying they were going to fire them. The district said that they thought that they had changed test scores because the results were so high on these scores. These were like first grade teachers. But my mom came on, asked us to pray for Robbie James and Willie Jordan. I went to an NAACP meeting, actually in this building, and someone came in and to start the meeting said, "Let's pray for Robbie Jordan and Willie James. The district is going after them, and it's not just." Then Willie Brown, who was the Speaker of the House at the time, had put together a committee that was going across the state to try to determine why middle-class Blacks were pulling their kids out of public school. So they had a meeting at the Hilton in San Bernardino, and my political mentor, Lois Carson, she asked me to attend that meeting as a community representative. And so there was about 100 of us there, and they broke us out onto these tables, about 6 people in each group. And I was at a table with a lady from Sacramento, African-American lady, and she said, "If you ever want something from a school board or a city council, take 50 people to that meeting and you'll get what you want."
Love it.
And so when she said that, that kind of clicked for me, because in my when I was in my early years in college, I was in a fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and we used to promote parties. And so I was like the big promoter. I would put out the placards, and we would put commercials on the radio, and we would get 500 people at our event. So I knew I could get people to turn out to an event.
Yeah.
So we created an event, which was a school board meeting, and we asked community members to show up at that meeting. Now, before we did that, we went door to door in that neighborhood around Rio Vista Elementary School. That's where the teachers taught at that were being accused. And we heard nothing but great things about these teachers. They came in early, they put in extra time with the kids, they did tutoring before school and after school. So you really could get a sense of how their results would be better than the average teacher at that school because they put in so much work. So anyway, we packed the school board meeting. Hundreds of people showed up. And after that meeting, people approached me about running for school board. They knew that I was one of the lead persons in orchestrating the event where we brought members of the community to protest at the board meeting. Even though I did it in a low-key way. When I did the flyers, we just said, come out and support Willie James and Robbie Jordan, teachers who cumulatively have taught in our district for over 50 years. And they were people who had those teachers as their teacher. So they were adamant about supporting them. So there was no label at the top of the flyer about an organization. And I did it on purpose because if I had said it was led by the NAACP or New Hope Missionary Baptist Church or the Muslims, one group would have been mad about the other group.
Yes.
And then you would have had this fraction in the community rather than everyone coming together to support these teachers.
Yeah.
So I made it agnostic and made sure that we didn't have a lead agency, just a group of people saying, we need your help.
I like that.
And it was very successful. And then after that, I got the call for a lot of people asked me to run for a school board. I think the tipping point was I got a call from a guy named Tom and Lily Rivera. They were very active in the Hispanic, Mexican-American community.
Mm-hmm.
And they called me and said, Danny, they were on the phone together and said, they were both professors at Cal State San Bernardino. They said, we want you to run for school board, and we'll support you if you run. And so that was the tipping point because I already had a number of people from my own community ask me to run. And then if I had the folks from the Hispanic community also asked me to run. And I had a lot of support from people throughout the city because they knew me from my work at the county of San Bernardino. That's why I ran and won. So I actually got elected to school board when I was 32 years old.
And you weren't involved in education before that at all, right?
No. Other than doing the mentoring and tutoring, but professionally, no.
Wow. Is this at all related to the March for Education that you were a part of, or is that something completely different? When you helped these gentlemen secure their jobs, I saw something where it said that you became a part of like March for Education or something like that. Is that true, or you know what I'm talking about?
I never read that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about was why was these families pulling their kids out of school? Did they ever talk about why?
Yeah, I know why. Because we have the same issues that exist today. A lot of schools aren't successful with African American students. In our district, we have a policy called targeted instruction. We also have some successful charter schools. My daughter has a charter school called Savant Prep. I don't have anything to do with it formally because it'd be a conflict of interest, but her results are amazing. I mean, she has 60% proficiency rate or 70% proficiency rate in mathematics and the English language arts, which is amazing when you compare the
Public school?
The statewide results for African American kids for proficiency is like 18% or 20%. But it all comes back to meeting the students where they are and providing them an education that is challenging and fun at the same time. And I really think there's a big disconnect between cultures. So it's hard to convince someone that our kids have the ability to excel in education. When my daughter did her student teaching, she was in a classroom with a teacher who wasn't African American, and at the end of the day, when my daughter did her student teaching, the lady pulled her aside and said, the teacher said, the way you interacted with that young African American man, he's never done that with me. And I don't think it's my responsibility because I can't do what you did to draw him in. But that's what's missing in education. There's no training done for folks in education to ensure that they have the ability and the know-how to engage all students, including African American students, within their classroom. So it's not unusual to have an African American student in a classroom where he's the only student in our district. You got to remember, we only represent about 18% of the population in San Bernardino School District.
Okay.
So a lot of times there aren't a lot of African Americans in those classrooms. And if you don't have teachers that make the asserted effort to reach out to the students and include them and make sure that they're getting the opportunity to excel in education, then it doesn't happen. And you know, my dad used to say, you're fighting against billions and billions of dollars of negative indoctrination.
Okay.
And the fact that you still have Tarzan on TV, the fact that you have Westerns that don't show any representation of African Americans, that you have very few shows where they show black folks in a heroic role, the fact that they don't show and teach the fact that math, science, the study of the planets all started in Africa. There's an asserted effort to ensure that people don't know the real story and the ability of African American people, or I should say people with melanin in their skin, because that's what it comes down to. That's the world that we live in. And sadly, it's not going to change anytime soon. You know, they had this thing in California where they had this discussion about reparations. And
Okay.
I was angry from the beginning because I said they're never going to give African Americans reparations in California. Black folks don't have enough people at the state level that would be willing to vote for reparations. And you're not going to get whites and Hispanics to vote for reparations for African Americans. It's not a priority of theirs. So we continue to live in a society that doesn't value us today, and they do not value the tragedy that we have been through in this American experience. So when I was angry about the talk of reparations, because then you had a fuel for racist people to say, I'm not giving them anything. And that became a joke to them. And at the same time, I knew it was never going to happen.
In the first place.
Yeah. So they went through years of talking about reparations and giving lip service and saying how great it was going to be. But when it came down to really rectifying the transgressions of the past, it didn't happen. And it's never going to happen because we're never going to represent the number of people living in America that would dictate them having to do right by African Americans. It's never going to happen.
From the wrongs of the past.
For the wrongs of the past.
Wow.
You had a question about retirement.
Yeah. Oh, but before I want to get to that,
Yeah.
I kind of want to, I wanted to address, like, I realized that, going back to reparations, I realized that reparations can be paid for when the stimulus check came out.
Okay.
I was like, oh, they can do reparations because everyone got a stimulus check, so that's easy thing
They
to
could do reparations, yes.
Yeah, they can do reparations.
No doubt about it. You could do reparations scientifically. You could do DNA check for African Americans and determine which ones of us are truly the descendants of the people who were slaves.
Yeah, they're calling it FBA now.
DNA.
Yeah,
But
I mean, like, they're calling it Foundation Black Americans.
Well, I'm just saying, it's
Yeah.
easy to check.
Yeah.
It'll be easy to check. You could check to see which businesses benefited from the crime of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to do.
Yeah.
They have records, financial records of all the institutions that have benefited. They have chain of title for all the properties, and it wouldn't be a lot of money. But
Yeah.
they're not going to do it.
Gotcha.
People in America is not going to recognize that African Americans were treated inhumanely under the false guise of not even being human.
Yeah.
I mean, people lose sight of the fact that they said that we couldn't participate in professional baseball and football. They didn't say because we were black. They said because we weren't qualified, because we weren't good enough, because we weren't fast enough. So we had generations of African Americans that had to live under those lies and were denied the ability to compete. And the athletics is the way to show the clearest disparity of how all those rules were lies. But they did it across the whole gamut and every career path that you could name, even being able to own property and businesses. It's been an uphill struggle for African Americans, and it still is to this day.
Yeah. It shows a lot about the resilience,
Yes.
and I also remember hearing something about the spirit of the Black American, which is like such a loving and caring spirit to go through such a tragedy. And if people want to talk about trauma, this is trauma, and this is traumatizing generational, and how Black Americans, us here on this earth, still have an open, welcoming heart and moving forward and still loving to everybody.
Sure.
I find that amazing. And, you mentioned that, we don't have enough people in state legislature, but did the Japanese during the internment camps need to have people in legislature to get their reparations, or the people in the Holocaust survivors, did they have to have?
But the reparations were minimal.
Comparison?
I mean, even if they decided to do that,
Okay.
but it would be more than what it cost them to do for the Japanese that were in internment camp, because it wasn't as many as you have African Americans. But I don't know what it would be. I don't know. I just don't think there's anything that would inspire them to do that. What did they do for the Japanese in terms of reparations?
I'm not sure.
I don't think it was.
Not sure.
I don't think it was anything substantial.
Gotcha. Did they, correct me if I'm wrong, but did they do something for like the Holocaust survivors and stuff like that? Did they do stuff?
No, because it wasn't America that did the Holocaust.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I don't know what they did in Germany in terms of the other German population, what they did. I don't know what they did, but I know for African Americans, nothing has ever been done. And I don't think anything ever will be done. But I really think it's a mindset. And you don't want to lose sight of the fact that we live in the richest country in the world.
Yes.
And the richest state in that country.
California's the richest state?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's so much opportunity here, and we need to take advantage of it. So many people take even our education for granted. But you got to remember, there's populations around the world who don't allow girls to go to school. So every young lady that's going to school should have that in her mind. She should have the perspective that I'm lucky and blessed to be able to go to school and go into college and be a professional because I live in America. So don't lose sight of the fact that there's abundance of opportunity here in America, but your mindset has to be right in order to realize it's there and to capitalize on it.
Gotcha. And I wanted to address, because I know we were talking about how Black students are kind of treated differently and not really understand education. So do you think it's a whole system all connected, from like the education system to related to like slavery of the past and misunderstanding? Do you think it's all like connected?
Oh, no doubt about it.
Okay.
It's systemic from the perspective of when I have a white shirt and a tie on, people treat me totally different than when I put on my T-shirt and my gold chain.
Okay.
It's just because of the stereotypes that exist here in America. So, and we take for granted, a lot of Black folks take for granted that live in California, how blessed we are. If you go to South Carolina and North Carolina, things are a lot different.
A lot different?
A lot different. And let me say this, if you want to get a perspective of America, I went to a tour in Washington, D.C. of the Senate chambers. The Senate has what, maybe 2 blacks in the Senate?
Okay.
But all legislation has to go through the Senate. But when they have a restaurant underground when you go to the Capitol for the U.S. senators, and so you have a room full of predominantly white men, and then you have the whole staff is black that works there almost, and been there a long time. And it almost takes you back 50 years where, yes, sir, give me my special Bob or Jim or Shirley. It's just the whole feeling is just terrible. But that's America.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, no laws pass unless that body agrees to pass that law. And then it becomes clear as to why everything has a tinge of white supremacy on it, because that's just the reality of the world that we live in. And once I left that Senate restaurant, and it finally hit me that no laws are passed unless it goes through that body. It's just natural for those folks in that body to not to want to do a whole lot for black folks. It's just that simple. So it's always going to be an uphill battle for African Americans in America. So you just accept that's our reality, and you can never ever stop fighting the battle.
Yeah.
That's the key. There has to be certain people in our community that are going to fight to ensure that African Americans have opportunity. So whatever your ability is, you should have an opportunity either to start a business or to get a job that you can excel at to benefit the entire community. Because me as an African American school board, I don't just help African Americans, I help everybody, white, black, Hispanic. That's why I've been elected 7 times, because I help the entire community. So when you don't allow people like me to succeed, it hurts the entire community and the entire country.
Yeah.
So I just would encourage everybody in America to try to look past race and support folks who have abilities that can benefit the country as a whole.
I love that. It makes me think, going back to the Senate, is like, why am I going to change it if I have it so good?
That's right.
Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
Why fix it,
That's right.
And so, let's talk about life with the shirt and the gold chain. I'm assuming that's retirement, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
let's talk a little bit about retirement and what does that mean to you? What does that look like for you?
Just be able to wake up at the time you feel like waking up, and then doing the things in life that you want to do. So to me, it's been 2 years because I retired in November 2022. So I do a lot with helping elderly people. I'm still on the school board, so I still do a lot of work with the schools. I still play the drums in my church.
Okay.
And able to help people as I get phone calls. So I'm still busy. Can golf a little bit more than I used to. So that makes it nice.
Got you.
Yeah.
I know I need to go golfing because I always hear such great things about golf. How is golf? Is
I
it
love
overrated?
golf.
Okay.
No, I love it.
Okay.
If you like being outdoors, and then if you like being able to compete with your friends and people that are out there golfing, it's a great time.
Okay. And I was talking to shout out to Flex. I was like, man, he was like, I'm on basketball, and he's like, my ankle. I was like, man, watch your ankles.
That's right.
And I was like, as you get older, you can't be, you
That's
got to change
right.
your sports around.
That's what I did. I should be basketball, and I switched to golf for some of those same reasons. I walk a lot, like to walk at the beach, walk the hills in San Bernardino. So got to stay in shape. So part of retirement is making a priority to exercise and try to eat right and stay in shape.
I have a question on here, and I feel like I have to ask it, and I think we kind of asked it, but I something tells me that I should really ask it.
Yeah.
And the question is, what was the importance of your father in your life and the household to your success?
Oh, it was everything. It was everything. It wasn't perfect. I mean, my dad in today's time would be considered an abuser. You know what I mean? He laid hands on us. We got slapped. I tell the kids when I go to talk to them at school, we had to get A's and B's in school. That was my dad's rule. He said, if you went to school, if you weren't going to get an A or B, you're supposed to come home and tell them why you're having the problem. So when you came home, you showing your report card, and if you had a C or below, a D or F, you got slapped. So I didn't get slapped a lot because I didn't like getting slapped.
Got
So
you. What about your siblings?
No, I
Okay.
watched them the few times they did. So all of us ended up doing well in school.
Okay.
All my siblings graduated with honors. I was the only one that didn't. During my high school years, my mom and dad were going through a divorce, so they didn't pay as much attention to me as they did my siblings. But my foundation, even in elementary school, was so sound that even though I didn't do real well in high school, I had attained real knowledge. So I was able to use what I had learned in high school to benefit me in my career. And, another big deal with my dad was he taught me how to fix things.
Okay.
So by the time I was 10 or 11 years old, I would fix sprinklers, and then I could fix brakes on cars when I was 13 or 14, working on engines. We put the roof on the house. I could change washers. We did plumbing. We did everything ourselves to support our house. So, and this is before, Google
Okay.
and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So he taught me how to fix stuff. I was holding the light and learning while he was, turning the wrenches. And then eventually I was the guy turning the wrenches. So he had the patience to teach. And my mother, I was thinking the other day, every mother who has a child that's a drummer should
Okay.
get a special award. Just the thought of having a kid in your house banging on some drums whenever they felt like it, you gotta love your kids to put up with that. We had probably a 900 square foot house with 7 people. So when the drums started going, everybody heard it. I didn't think about it as a kid, but I think about it now as an adult. After I raised my kids, how fortunate I was to have parents that bent over backwards to give me the experiences to help me be successful.
You know, I really like the aspect. Your dad was basically setting you up for success by giving you trades, giving you tools to be able to
Right.
use your hands,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Because once you could use your hands for different things and trades, like a man could teach a man to fish.
Right.
People know the rest of the saying,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I want to get back to education with you, Mr. Tillman. And what do you think education is missing today, or what's missing in education today?
On what level? You talking about up and
Whatever your instinct says, we can address all three if you want.
well, I really think education hasn't changed a lot. If you're a good fit for education, you do well in it. If you're not, it's tougher. Now when I was in school, they called it ADHD, but I was hyper. I'm hyper now. It's just that because I had a dad that was so strict that I knew I had to do well in school and academics, regardless of being hyper. So when I was in school, in class, I took care of business. When I got on the playground, that's when I acted a fool and have fun. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I knew that education, I had to produce those grades just so that I didn't get in trouble. Of course, at some point, as I got older, uh, I realized the value of school is actually learning something and not just getting grades. But a lot of kids never see it that way. I didn't see it that way. I never saw it that way in high school. My whole life in school was trying to get out the easiest way possible, taking the easiest classes, and then I didn't have anybody that encouraged me or to tell me, hey, you're a sharp kid, you can do a lot of good things, you should be in these classes. It never happened. I remember the first time that I thought to myself, okay, you might have something, was we took the PSAT in the 10th grade, I think,
Okay.
and I scored in like the top 10% in the country. They sent the letter saying that. But even with that, it didn't mean a lot to me because my dad had told all of us, we're going to go graduate from high school, we'll go 2 years to a junior college, and going to transfer to a 4-year school. to the point we didn't even apply for 4-year schools. We just, knew we were going to junior college and we're going to transfer. So it ended up working out for us. Don't have any student loans, so that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think the biggest thing was my dad's encouragement. So he would tell us, if you see somebody doing something, you can do it. If you want to do something, whether it's a sport or play an instrument, you can do it. If you want to be good at it, the more you practice, the better you're going to get. You're not better than nobody else, and nobody else is better than you in life. Everybody puts on their pants one leg at a time.
Got to put the work in.
That's right.
So what do you think is missing in education today?
I don't. I really. I know for a fact, in terms of education at large, no one's created a system to ensure that African American students are taught well.
Do you think they even think that is needed?
I know they don't. I mean, you could graduate with honors at Cal State San Bernardino and have a degree in teaching, and you may not be able to teach African American kids because there's nothing in the curriculum to ensure that you can teach African American kids.
This makes me think of, I remember seeing, and I've heard a lot about it, that a lot of African American kids or Black American kids have been misdiagnosed or purposely
sure.
put into like special education,
Mhm.
even though they didn't have special education. They were like told they had ADHD, so not
Yeah.
special education.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it's really become it's I guess it's a reality that it's not a good thing. I'll give you a perfect example. At my daughter's school, she doesn't have a lot of kids uh, that have been labeled special ed, and then she'll have parents that say, "I want my kids to be labeled special ed," because they think they get additional resources. And you do. Once you label special ed, you will get additional resources. But my daughter's school has proved you don't need those additional resources if you're getting a quality education and you truly love and are able to educate the kids that you have in front of you. And so that's the biggest problem. A lot of Black folks are suspect of the educators and the educational system. So to a fault. So sometimes they don't have the right balance on holding their kids accountable at the same time holding the educators accountable. I did a lot of mentoring, and I was in a IEP one time with a young man, and his mother wanted him to copy the assignment off the board, and they had the special ed teachers in there, and the teacher said, "I asked your child to copy the assignment because that's what you asked us to do, and he won't do it." And the mother turned to the teachers and said, "So what are you going to do about that?" And I said, "Time out. If my dad told me to copy the assignment off the board, I'm going to copy the assignment off the board." To some extent, a parent has to be held responsible to control their child. And so I turned to the parent and said, "No, that's on you. If my dad told me I had to do something, I was going to do it."
Yeah.
Now, I was there to mentor that young man. So I'll give it's a perfect example, really. His mother called me and said when he went to high school, I had started mentoring in middle school. When he went to high school, the first week of high school, she got a call every day.
Wow.
Some kind of discipline problem. The latest one was he wore a hat. The teacher told him to take the hat off, and he didn't want to take the hat off. So the mother called me. He wasn't staying with his father at the time. So I said to him, I'm not going to give his name, but young man, if you don't want the teacher to tell you to take your hat off, then don't wear the hat. You understand that?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Tillman. And I said to him, I went to meet one at the school, and I said, they've been calling your mama's house every day because of something you're doing at the schools. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you this $20. I'm going to come back in a month. I'm going to talk, not in a month, but I'm going to talk to the principal and the vice principal in a month. If you hadn't gotten in any trouble and your mama tell me no one's called home in the rest of this month, I'm gonna take back the 20 and give you 100. And sure enough, the end of the month, no one had called home, and I gave him $100. And I said, "Am I gonna have to give you $100
Every month?
every month?" And he said, "Nah, Mr. Tillman, I just decided I'm not gonna do that stuff anymore." And from that point forward, it didn't happen. But he had to realize that he was in control. The lucky thing for me was he valued money the way I valued money when I was his age. So that was an incentive for him
Yes.
to dig deep and say, I'm not going to lose the opportunity of getting that money. But it changed his whole life. He went on to graduate early from high school. So, you know, some parents aren't equipped with the ability to instill the discipline in their kids to ensure that they're successful too. That's part of the problem. And I don't know what the total solution is. I just know as educators, we have to meet parents and students where they are to help them be as successful as possible.
I love the incentive. It helps a lot. Yeah. You know, cool story. What's your thoughts on, I believe the Trump administration has been talking about getting rid of the Department of Education.
You gotta remember the thing that President-elect Trump is good at is motivating people to vote for him, and he'll say anything to get them to do that. So it's the difference between someone talking and then action. And whatever he says means nothing to me in terms of being worried about what he's going to actually do, because most of the time it doesn't happen. You know, the best thing about Donald Trump is he tests our democracy. People lose sight of the fact that we have three branches of government: the courts, the legislative body, and the executive. And they're checks and balances. So he can't do a whole lot by himself anyway. So I don't get real concerned about it. When you look at local school districts, because education really is local, it's a small percentage of our budget comes from the federal government.
Wow.
Majority of our budget comes from the state.
Okay.
And property taxes pay for probably about 80% of the school's budget.
Okay.
That's not going to change because of Donald Trump.
So depending on where you live will base on how well off your school could be.
Not anymore, because they created a thing called local control funding formula. So what they do now is they take all their property taxes and then they give it back to you in the local areas, but they give additional money for school districts that have high levels of poverty and students that speak English as a second language. So our district and have foster youth. So our district actually gets more money than a district, say, like
Beverly Hills?
like Beverly Hills and Redlands now, because of the local control funding formula. They realize that we have more needs in a district like ours than those other districts. So we're actually better off than we used to be. When I first came on the board, we didn't have the local control funding formula. So it was true that the other districts received a whole lot more money than we did. When we got that additional money, I did things in our district to say parents are not going to pay for anything associated with school. So uniforms, even last year we said even for gym clothes. If gym clothes are something that kids have to have, then we're going to provide them. And what we tried first was to say, if a parent can't afford them, then the district will give them out. Then I had a parent call me and say, hey, I can't afford the gym clothes. I had my daughter go in there and say that you said the school district will provide the clothes, and they told my daughter, we don't have them, you can wear leggings. That's not what the district said. And I'm not going to have the student out there in leggings and then the other kids thinking she got leggings because she can't afford gym clothes. And so I presented to the rest of the board, and we decided to provide gym clothes to all students. So that goes for instruments, even cheerleading. You know, when I was in school, if you didn't have money, you couldn't be a cheerleader because you couldn't afford to go to the camp or you couldn't afford to buy your box, right? That doesn't exist anymore. It shouldn't exist. If somebody's in the San Bernardino City School District and there's something that they can't do because of finances, they need to contact me. Because anything that's sanctioned by the district should pay for it totally.
Instruments and everything.
Everything.
I love that. So I guess I'm thinking about, I guess people call it devil's advocate. But let's say, you're in Redlands or Beverly Hills and you're like, why should my money be going to help them? Shouldn't our money be helping our schools?
Oh, it is it is for the most part.
Okay.
But there's other money other than just property tax. You also have sales tax. You even get a little money from the lottery. But in the end, the state legislature and the governor have the discretion to determine how much money schools receive. And if you have, for instance, 5,000 of my kids are homeless legally.
Say that again?
5,000 of my kids out of the 45,000 students I have, 5,000 are legally homeless. So either that goes from either living at the park, or you don't have a permanent residence, or you're moving from place to place throughout the year. So those type of situations require more money. So we provide busing of kids, transportation of kids. We have a Be Still program where no matter where your parents live, we'll get you a bus from that school, from wherever you're living to this school, as long as you're in our school district, so that you can have some level of consistency. So those things cost more money than a district doesn't have to deal with students that have problems they got to deal with. My dad always used to say, a child should never be held responsible for the action of adults. And I truly believe that. So because you're born into poverty, or your parents have drug problems, or you're living with your grandmother who doesn't have mobility, those things present problems. So the district should do what they can to mitigate those circumstances to give you the best chance at being successful in your education.
It immediately makes me think of, like, it blows my mind. You say 5,000 kids are homeless, right? I'm pretty sure most people don't even think about kids being homeless and trying to go to school. So how do they even? My first thing is, like, how do they even? Because I think you have to, like, write down a residence, right, in order to even go to school, to, like, apply to be in school. Like,
Unless you're homeless.
Yeah. So, like, how does that work?
They
Like,
have ways of dealing with it. We have a whole staff that deals with students who happen to be homeless.
And didn't
I'll give you a perfect example.
Okay.
We had the local fires around here, and there was smoke. And a lot of people got angry at me because the air quality people said the best way to deal with the smoke is to stay indoors and run your air conditioning. To me, because I grew up in San Bernardino and we didn't have an air conditioner, then that meant that if I had kids in school, they were better off than me at home. So I had a lot of people upset with that.
Okay.
But even if you take it to the next level, a kid doing that event was better at my school with food than being at Paris Hill Park, homeless, breathing the air with no air conditioning. So that was my perspective. And I try to be fair to the teachers and staff who didn't want to come by saying, you can use your sick leave and we'll restore your sick leave if you feel that it's unsafe for you to be here. I'm not going to force somebody to be in a situation they don't want to be in. But I knew a lot of my kids were better off being at school, even with the air was unhealthy, because I could provide an environment during those few hours that was more healthy than what they were going to experience at home. A lot of our kids don't eat unless they come to school.
Yeah.
So when they said shut down schools, everybody thinks you just tell everybody, hey, stay home. But no, even if you're really going to feed those kids, you're telling part of my workers, you're coming to work to help feed the kids, because there's no robots to hand out food to kids. No robots to prepare it.
Yeah.
People got to do that.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet. Exactly.
Shout out to you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were basically trying to make things work for everybody. And like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were trying to give, if the educators were going to come in, you could say, hey, use your sick leave and we'll reimburse your sick
That's
leave.
right.
So that's a great
I
thing.
was trying to get a win-win.
Yeah.
Right.
And can you speak a little bit on, because not only do kids that are without homes don't have food, but even kids that quote unquote have homes don't necessarily get meals. Can you speak on how many kids are not really getting meals at home and getting most of their meals at school?
I don't
Speak
know
on
the
that?
number, but I know it's substantial.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done the survey.
Okay.
And we even do a thing now where we ensure that a kid can eat breakfast in class.
Okay.
It presents problems because you have to do more with pesticides and stuff like that. You know, when you start bringing food in class and you start getting bugs and stuff. So we have to deal with all that, you know what I mean? But, and then, you know, just dealing with the food in the classroom, you get grease and, you know, food.
Yes.
But you got to balance it. But they found that a kid who's not hungry in the morning is going to perform better in school. And
More focused.
More focused. So that's why a lot of those programs work. Yeah.
You know, it makes me think, because I could have sworn Governor Newsom, I think that's his name. And even, I guess, even in the city of San Bernardino, like the homeless, there's been money put towards homelessness. And so I'm curious about your opinion. So like, why do you think it's still so big and why hasn't it been tackled, especially even for kids?
Yeah, I really think there's a
Thoughts?
solution to homelessness.
There isn't, or there is?
There is.
Okay.
But there's no one person in the right position that has the motivation to do it. You know, I worked at the county, like I said, for 42 years. Because I worked in IT, my last 17 years there was doing technology for all the human services departments, which involved transitional assistance, which is welfare, children and family services, Department of Age and Adult Services, Veterans Affairs. And I worked at the treasurer's office from 1990 to 2005, so I understand money very well.
Okay. It's good to know money.
Yeah, 5 years ago, the county gave back $1 million. That was money that was supposed to be spent for homelessness, and maybe $4 million
Who'd they give it back to?
to the state because they didn't spend the money. So I say that to say, and I'll give you another example. When I was at the county, they brought me into a meeting and said, "Hey, what do we do about?" We have they call it 211. So if you're homeless, you dial 211.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that the wait time was hours sometime. People they wouldn't answer the phone. And I said to them, why wouldn't you just make the 211 ring at Transitional Assistance, which is the welfare office?
Yeah.
Because they have the resources. They know what it takes to get people money and food immediately, even for housing. There's certain people that qualify for housing. And the answer was, and I asked her, what's your budget for 211? It was like $700,000. $700,000 is no money. So why wouldn't you give it to Transitional Assistance where their budget is like $1 billion and they have the capacity to help folks? So then you would be having these folks manage even the homeless, but with a lot more resources and success. Then you could have them reach out to Social Security or Veterans Affairs if they're a veteran. Mm-hmm. Or the mental health people if they have mental health problems, mm-hmm. or getting them qualified to be a medical disability on Social Security. There's a lot you'd be able to do. You know what I mean? If you just have the initial contact be with the right organization, but you don't have anybody that has the wherewithal and knowledge to do that. You know what I mean? So I really think there is a solution to homelessness. You got tons of land. I mean, I worked at the tax collector's office. You can buy 5 acres of land during a tax sale for $5,000. Okay. So why not take some of those parcels and build some inexpensive homes out there? You know, the county had a thing called turnkey, and the state did. They were paying $100,000 a room, and in L.A. it was $600,000 a room. But you got to remember this: when they had the ribbon cutting ceremony for it, Everybody drove in the Bentleys and Rolls Royces to the event because they're getting rich off of it. Instead of them, and then you find out everyone's not eligible to say, I bought this hotel motel, I want to use it in your program. You have to be politically connected to say, we're going to allow your motel or hotel to enter into the program, and we'll pay you the money to house the homeless. So it's really been co-opted by the folks who have the political connections.
Wow. And when you mentioned the 211 working with the TA, when you mentioned that to people, what did they say? What was the?
That's something they wanted to do. It wasn't that's not what they wanted.
Wow.
But they wanted to keep complaining about why 211 wasn't going to be successful. 211 couldn't be successful because you guys aren't providing the resources to 211. So they kept looking for an agency that could say, hey, give me $700,000 and I can answer all the calls and find solutions for all the homeless people. You got to remember, if you're an outside agency, you have no control over the government entities that have the resources to provide to the people. So you're better off if you just start internally with the organizations that have the resources and the authority to help the folks from day one.
I love that, and it makes me think, okay, you said the $1 million goes back to the state. So what does the state do with that money?
They'll reallocate it the next year. That's the way government budget works. But I made that statement because there's no way you should have the level of homelessness and have money going back.
Yeah.
If nothing else, just put them in a motel room.
Use that money.
You take $1 million, say how many days is it paid for, and how many families can I put in there for that period of time? It's just that simple. But then they didn't do it.
Here's another question on top of that. So, you're one man, and you quickly came up with a solution like that, right? Just like that. So do you think they're choosing not to follow such an easy solution? Or do you think they're just, all these people that are in high positions have not figured it out?
It depends on what you call a high position. I ran for United States Congress. And when I ran, my daughter said, oh, Dad, you're going to have to deal with the Illuminati and, they're not going to let you run. And
which daughter said this?
The oldest daughter.
Okay.
But so I said to her, there can't be one person controlling who runs for these offices nationwide. But I found out there is. And they do decide who can be in these positions. And they're not looking for someone who has who says, I have a way, I think in ways that can find solutions. They're looking for people that are going to do what they tell them to do.
Okay.
And so it starts in the very beginning. When you hire the consultant tells you, when they ask you this question, you say this answer. And the consultant tells you need to shave your mustache, you shave your beard, you take a picture with a dog, with a horse, and you take a picture reading a Harry Potter book to the kid.
Okay.
And so they're conditioning you right then to do all these things that aren't things that you would normally do. And then they tell you how you're supposed to respond to answers because that's going to give you the most votes. Doesn't matter whether what you're saying makes sense or is going to truly be a solution. It's what's going to get you the votes. And they've tested it. So there's this huge disconnect. So you actually put people in place who say things to get votes, but have nothing to do with translating into actionable things that are going to solve problems. So you're not electing people who solve problems. You're electing people who say the things that are going to get people to vote for them. Sounds complicated, but that's the reality of it.
Gotcha. It's almost like branding, almost a little bit.
I'll give you a perfect example. When I ran for Congress, they asked the question, what do you think would reduce crime and gun violence in San Bernardino? And I said, giving more people opportunities for jobs. And the earlier you start giving them access to disenfranchised, then the better chance that you're going to reduce crime, because a lot of crime is driven by folks trying to get money.
Period.
So that was my answer. But the guy who ended up winning saying, we got to have more gun laws. And that didn't make any sense to me in San Bernardino. How would a gun law change crime in San Bernardino? The criminals don't go buy guns at the gun store.
Yeah.
So how does changing the gun law going to change crime in San Bernardino? It won't. But he's going to be the guy to get the votes because they've told him, if you say this, people that vote will vote for you.
Yeah.
So it's a total disconnect.
So, oh man, so many questions. Oh God.
But you have to remember, the only question I had at that time was, has it always been this way? And it has. You got to remember, America was created by businessmen. And the businessmen did not want to be the politicians. So the businessmen wanted to be able to pick who the politicians were by financing their money. And that's why the Supreme Court ruled, based on the Constitution, that given a contribution is freedom of speech.
Okay.
So that they can give as much money as they want to a candidate.
Yeah.
So your candidates literally are bought and paid for. And you have to remember, whoever's giving you that money, you're beholden to those person who gives you the money.
Yeah. AKA lobbyists or lobbyists.
That's right. Well, the lobbyists are paid for by the same people. Yeah. But the lobbyists also get involved when you run for office. You go meet with the lobbyists in order to get them to give you contributions. But you know when you go to meet with those folks, they're going to come back to ask for things. And that's when, politics is involved. Because people are do things that don't make any sense to anybody. Well, they're doing it because they've been told to do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are enjoying this, please like the video, subscribe, all that jazz, comment down below. Hope you're enjoying yourself, Mr. Tillman. I'm having fun.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you didn't think that there was one person in charge, but then you found out that there was.
Yes.
Who was it? What was it?
It's not a person, but they're, I'll give you a prime example. When I went to run, I took a trip to Sacramento.
Okay.
And while I was in Sacramento, I had told people I was going to run for U.S. Congress. And I had people come to me and say, a person who I rode on the plane there with told me, I got a phone call. They're saying you can't run for U.S. Congress. I said, who is they? They said, this person wants to talk to you. The person called me and said, nah, we'll support you if you run for the state assembly. We'll support you if you run for the county superintendent of schools, but you can't run for U.S. Congress. And I said, that's not a democracy. If I can't run for office I want to run for, that's not democracy. If you guys deciding who runs for office, you don't have a democracy. And so I told him, I said, you don't know me. You can't tell me I can't run. And the fact that you tell me I can't run means I am going to run. But I was at work one day and I got a phone call and they said it was a lady from the DCCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. And she told me, we're calling to tell you that we're supporting X candidate. I said, well, why did you call and tell me that? Well, we just want you to know he's a good candidate. I said, well, I think he's less qualified than me. Have experience with bigger organizations, bigger budgets. And I think it's not democracy when you guys decide who can run and who can't run. And she said, I'm not telling you you can't run. Then why did you call me? And she hung up the phone. And before she hung up, I said, what'd you say your name is again? And she hung up the phone. I called back the number. That's how I knew it was the DCCC. And I knew who the person's name was because it was on a recording. But for them at that level to call me and try to encourage me not to run, it's crazy. But when you get back to the people controlling it, I had a number of people who told me, hey, I raised money for Barack Obama. We're going to have a fundraiser for you. And they come back and say, nah, man, I talked to some people, they said I can't support you. They're going with this other person. And then, so every time somebody would come to me and say, hey, I work for Barack's team, I'm gonna bring this guy in, we're gonna do something for it. And I would tell them, dude, after you make your second or third phone call, they're gonna tell you, you can't do it. And that's what happened. Whoever they were calling to say, hey, we're gonna do it, they got shut down. Because nationwide, they do decide who's gonna run for whatever reason they decide.
Basically, it's already pre-plicked and pre-planned.
Exactly. When you interview with the unions, the actual union members, there'll be a room of 100 people. It doesn't matter though. Their union president already knows who they're going to endorse. It's not because of what the people say. It's because what they decided at the national level who they're going with already. So you're not going to have one union pick one candidate and another union pick another candidate. They all decide on who their candidate is. And it gets back to the same thing. That person's going to do what's in their best interest.
Yes.
They don't care about solutions or being fair or any of that.
Wow. Number one, I know people probably think this is amazing, but for me, I love it because it just shows power.
Yeah, it does.
Like these people have power, and I find it cool. People might find it disgusting and whatever else, but I think it's cool. I'm like, wow. Like,
No,
you
it's
have
the world
power.
it's the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is this. I mean, my name was on the ballot, so you can run. But I encourage everybody to listen.
Yeah.
They need to understand this. You'll always hear politicians tell you, you have the right to vote. You have the right to vote. We do it in our own community. But how often do you hear them tell you, you have the right to run for office?
That's not even on the thing.
You don't hear that.
Nuh-uh.
But you have the right to run for office.
Let them know, Danny. Let them know.
You have the right, and you should. You're going to freak everybody out because they don't want any competition. And if you run at the local level, then you got the ability to run at the next level. So I encourage everybody to run for office.
Gotcha.
If you really want to support your community, help your community, don't listen to these people that talk about your vote doesn't matter, because it does. You get some folks in the community who say your vote don't matter. I'm telling you, your vote matters. I've seen people lose school board races for a few votes. The fact that I've been on the school board for 30 years, I've helped people get positions, get business that they would not have gotten if I wasn't on the school board, because I ensured there was a fair process in place. And you got to fight to make things fair.
Do you think maybe if you were a young teenage actor in the early 80s and then you ran for Congress, it would have been more of a success for you because you've been more known within the public eye?
I don't know, because so many people, they have something on them. A lot of times when people get encouraged or get in office, they have something that they can threaten them with.
Can you give an example?
No, but I'm telling you,
Okay.
I know for a fact that's the case a lot.
Actually, I'm trying to understand, like, what does that mean? I'm trying to, like, clarify for my understanding.
I'll give you a perfect example. Even the stuff that's going on with Diddy right now.
Okay, P. Diddy.
People knew this stuff about Diddy a long time ago.
Yeah, over 20 years or something like that.
I think, and they told Diddy, Diddy crossed somebody he wasn't supposed to cross.
Okay,
So
so
all of
business
it-
people.
So all of a sudden, we're going to get rid of you now.
Yeah.
You got to remember, the same people that own the companies own the media.
Okay.
The media is not just something that's out there that nobody owns. It's owned by somebody, the big
Yeah.
media, the
Yes.
ones that own TV and, you see MSNBC, CNN, and Fox and all that stuff. They're owned by people. And in the end, they have something that they're concerned about and something they're going to champion. And that's the only thing that gets on those mediums. It's no different than Elon Musk buying X. He bought X so he can put a message out that he wants. He wants to control thought.
The narrative.
That's right.
Yeah, and I recently heard that, like, the whole P. Diddy thing is really just about, he didn't really do anything illegal. He just likes doing weird sexual acts, but it's like nothing illegal, technically.
Well,
quote
maybe
unquote.
if he did with kids, he's going to be in trouble. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
but they haven't found anything with kids, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I don't know what it is. You're
Right.
right about that. But I'm just saying, so the fact is, when I gave you the example,
Yes.
that's the kind of example I'm giving you. They can allow you to exist for a long time. Then they choose to take you out, they take you out. It's the same thing happened to Kanye West.
Okay.
Kanye West, so he could talk crazy about anybody. You can't talk crazy about everybody and keep your money. You can talk crazy about everybody if you want to, but there's gonna be consequences associated with it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
I say on blogs, they're on blogs where I see them saying racist stuff about black folks.
Mm-hmm.
That hurts black people, but they don't allow you to say the same type of stuff about other groups.
Yes.
It ain't equal. They have AI and they're running algorithms to block things that you try to say negative about certain groups. They could do the same thing about people saying negative stuff about black folks. They don't. When I don't do social media because it's so crazy. I understand technology. I understand anything on social media will never ever go away.
It's there
So
forever.
I don't do social media. But when I did do it, when I run my campaigns, I did use it. When I ran for mayor, I used it. But every morning you wake up, somebody calling you the N-word on your social media.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to happen. They can write a tool to make sure no one's allowed to write that in
Yep.
the site. They choose not to do that. But I guarantee you, they do block other words on those same sites.
100%.
It's just that black folks ain't a priority. And they think it's cute, and they want to make sure that they maintain the status quo in making things difficult for African Americans. I know that for a fact on a whole bunch of sites that allow it. If you see something on a site and it's saying disparaging thing on a regular basis about African Americans, it's because that corporate organization is allowing that to happen, and they don't allow that type of speech for all groups.
So it's so interesting that you mentioned that because it makes me think of a couple of things. First thing it made me think of was being considered 1/5 of a human, and that never changed. So why give them the same consideration for folks? If you guys don't know what we're talking about during slavery, African Americans, Black Americans were considered 1/5 a human. And then it also reminds me of shout out to Terrence Stone from Young Visionaries. He was saying, why is it okay for Black people or anybody on the radio to talk about killing other Black people and all this stuff?
Sure.
But if you say, but you can't say, oh, I shot a dog or something, you'll get
He's right.
blacklisted.
He's right.
So it just reminded me of that.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, which is interesting. And we've spoken so much about you running in politics. So, I was gonna. I always know I'm on the right path and the right plan because I was gonna talk about you running for mayor of San Bernardino. But would you ever run for U.S. Congress or any office again after all this information that you've known and been through?
No, because it would never happen. I realize folks aren't at the national level. They're not looking for people who have ideas to solve problems or that want to solve problems. It's just they're looking for people who are going to vote the way they tell them to vote. And you can't have somebody who thinks independently in a position and think they're going to vote the way you tell them to vote every time. And that's what the goal is, just to do what they tell you to do.
We need yes men.
Exactly.
Got you.
Yeah.
Would you ever run for mayor again?
I don't know. It costs a lot of money to run for office. So, at this stage, I don't know. I probably wouldn't.
Got you. It would really have to be something like a battery in your back to inspire you to do it again or something like that, right?
Well, I would love to do it because I see all these problems around us. The problem wouldn't be hard to solve. Just having somebody in place who likes to solve problems. People take a lot for granted. When I got on the school board in '95, we had year-round school, right?
Okay.
And we had year-round school because we didn't have enough classrooms and schools to allow students to go to school on a traditional calendar.
Oh, interesting.
So I knew we needed more schools. And at the time, California had a system called hardship. And if they passed a bond and you passed a bond, then they would build your schools 100%. So I talked to my finance guy and said, what do we have to do in order to get in line to build these schools? And he said, here's everything that we have to do. So I had him prepare us to be in line to do that. So since I've been on the school board, we probably built 16, 17 brand new schools.
Wow.
That's just somebody with the vision to say, I'm gonna solve this problem. You can solve problems if but the fact that we have all these new schools, people just take it for granted. They just go to a new school. Royal Valley was built because of me.
Okay.
I got on the school board. I found extra money. When I found the extra money, Hardy Brown called me and said, hey, we had bought this land on the west side to build a high school. It's never going to happen. I don't think they're really going to do it, but I just want you to know they have it. And I just went back and said, hey, you know what? They got some land over there. Let's build a high school over there. They said, okay, we don't have quite enough money. We have to do a local bond. That's what we did. We ended up doing the bond, and that's why Royal Valley exists today, and a number of other schools in the district, because I understand money and realize we could build a thing at the same time have a balanced budget, and we've been doing that ever since. We talk about you look at Jaden Daniels. He's another good example.
Mm-hmm.
When Jaden Daniels was in the ninth grade, his mother called me and said, "Hey, Danny, the sports program up here at Cajon is horrible. You guys haven't invested any money in the program. The uniforms are terrible. The practice uniforms have holes in them. It's just pathetic. And if you guys don't put some money in it, Jay's not going to stay in San Bernardino, and a lot of these other players aren't going to stay in San Bernardino." So I said, "Regina, do me a favor. Get your worst uniform, whatever one looks the worst, and bring it to the next school board meeting." She did that. She brought a practice jersey with a whole bunch of holes in it, and I was able to use that as the impetus to convince my other board members to invest $1.5 million every year to ensure that all the sports teams had brand new uniforms and equipment every year. And that was one of the reasons why he was able to stay in San Bernardino and excel. I just use it as an example of how someone elected at the local level makes a difference. It's the same thing with the fields. Before I got on the school board, they didn't want to let Pop Warner teams use our fields or junior All-American teams. I said if the Pop Warner team and the junior All-American teams are having a majority of their players are from San Bernardino, then we'll partner with them. We'll let them use the fields for free, and the organization just has to have their insurance. And we've been doing that. But it was an uphill battle. I had athletic directors, I had coaches, I had principals who didn't want to offer up these schools for these little kids. Jaden Daniel was one of them. He was doing Pop Warner at our high schools. The sites didn't want them on the high school sites.
What was their argument?
They didn't want to mess up their fields. They didn't want to give them the keys to use the
Facilities or something?
the facilities. There was you got to remember a lot of the people that work in the district don't live in the district. Total disconnect. The guy living up in Big Bear, he think, "Hey, this is my school. I don't want you raggedy folks messing up my school." That was just from my perspective, that's what the whole feeling was. No, I knew and I know the value of being able to go to a school campus on a weekend because you're not gonna get in trouble there. I knew that as a kid. When we went to Roosevelt to play basketball, that was a safe zone even on the weekends. So because of the fact that I grew up in this neighborhood, I know the importance that schools play even when it's not the 8 to 3 o'clock. Outside activities are a big deal. So when I got coaches that are volunteering and all I gotta do is partner with them and give them a place to use, and they're gonna have my kids doing something constructive, heck yeah, I'm gonna support them.
Yeah.
And
Say
and,
less.
and that's why we need more and more folks to run for office. I'm not gonna be doing this too much longer. So we gotta have folks on the board who have the same intensity, knowledge, sophistication, understand politics to be around long enough to ensure that we're making as many kids successful as possible. That's what my goal is.
Got you. And I just want to double down on what you're saying. What type of mindset of an individual would you think would be necessary to be on the board?
That's going to make a difference?
Yes.
Yeah, someone that cares about people. Someone's going to take a call from anybody and everybody. And the only goal is making sure that that parent and that student gets what they need to be as successful as possible. My whole time on the board, especially when I was younger, they said, "Hey, you micromanage stuff." Because they consider micromanaging, if someone calls in with a problem and I tell the superintendent to fix the problem, I'm going to ensure that the problem gets fixed. I'm never going to say, "Hey, you called me and I called the superintendent and he didn't do it, so I don't know what to do." No, I'm going to get the problem fixed. That's my goal. It's going to take 3 other board members to get it done. And I've been blessed to be able to find 3 other reasonable board members that would team up with me to solve a problem. So I challenge anybody to say, "Hey, I got a big problem in San Bernardino. I called Danny Tillman and it get fixed." It didn't get fixed because I fix problems.
Love that. How many people are on the board?
7.
7? And the other question that I was going to get to was, ladies and gentlemen, it's important to know that if you have an issue it's okay to make a phone call to your
That's right.
elected official.
Yeah.
Just to let you know if you didn't know. I know at one point I didn't know. Um, how important has being involved in tech for so many years, which is very problem solving
It
issues,
is.
connected to you solving problems, in the political space?
It's been huge. I mean, you got to remember before COVID, in my district, I ensured that each one of my students had a laptop and internet connection. And we do it to this day. We pay for the internet connection and the laptop for your kid year round because I know the role that technology plays in our community. And I say year round because when school is out, you still need technology at home.
Mhm.
You know, there was a lady named Precious Westy from our community, and she was giving out some awards to parents, and she gave out a video one time, and she didn't realize a lot of the parents didn't have the machine to play the video on.
Okay.
And that time it was common to have a VHS. Everybody thought we had a VHS player. It's
Yeah.
the same thing with technology. A lot of people can't afford technology, and technology is too big and opens up the whole world to everybody. So I make sure that everyone has a laptop and internet connection. And we did that before COVID and before we went to virtual schools. But it's the same thing to this day. I'm going to make sure they have those tools because I understand the importance that they play in making them successful.
Do you like where technology is going? 'Cause I think you jumped into the technology field not because you're interested, because you knew it was going to be a money making field.
Sure.
Did you eventually fall in love with technology, and do you like where technology is going?
Technology is in a scary place right now. And I really think that I just think it's horrible that they're allowing AI to advance the way that it is, artificial intelligence. I'm talking about true artificial intelligence. Some people call things artificial intelligence that aren't artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence to me is I give a computer the ability to make a decision on its own. I give the computer or a robot the ability to kill a human based on their own decision. That's a mistake. I was at a conference 6 years ago, and they said, "Hey, we have this machine that's learning." And I raised my hand and said, "What's it learning?" They said, "Oh, that's the beauty about it. We don't know what it's learning." That's crazy. And they said at the time, this year the computer is going to be as smart as a human being, and then this year the computer is going to be smarter than a human being. Why would you want a computer to be smarter than a human being? Because if the computer decides we're going to kill all the people, then it's over, and they could do it. And that's where they're at right now. They actually are that because the incentive is financial. That's what the problem is. There aren't going to be any controls because the incentive is to do the most with AI, and the more you do with AI, the more money you get. And now you got countries around the world doing it. So if you think about it right now, you could have a computer right now decide to kill somebody in a Tesla because Teslas have autopilot and they have Wi-Fi technology. So they have connection to the internet. So really somebody could decide to take a car and run it off the road if they choose to do it, if they just choose to hack the computer. Anything connected to the internet is vulnerable. You know, at the end of my career, there's a lot of things going on with ransomware. Ransomware is where they load something on your computers and they might be doing it for a whole month. And then one night at midnight, they run this tool on your system to lock up all your data. And you got to remember, they're doing all this over the internet. And if all your data is online, you're at their will. So then they say, you give us $1 million or you'll never see your information again. Now, the solution to that is to make sure you have all your information backed up to a medium, whether it's tapes or a hard drive that are not on the internet. Because then you can just reformat your computers, take them offline, reload your stuff, put in the fixes, and then you're back going again. But a lot of people don't have their information backed up.
Yeah.
So, and there's no one selling the information. I just said in terms of the important things to make sure you can do what they call a bare metal restore. I mean, you reformat your computer. You should be able to load the operating system and the data and the systems all at the same state. You could do that and be up in the same day. But people don't have their stuff backed up properly. But to get back to your question, now I have a real concern about where technology is going with AI. Just think about it. When you get on the phone and they say press 1, 2, or 3, or 4,
Yeah.
and you keep yelling, I want to talk to a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And they don't want you to talk to a person because a person costs money. So they rather you have to deal with this computer. And, and I even been on the phone where I had to ask, are you a person? That to me is a bad place to be.
And it's just going to get kind of more and more over time.
Think about it. They said they have computers that could write books. Why would I want to read what a computer wrote?
Yeah.
Just think about it.
ChatGPT, LLM, large language models.
Yeah. I mean, what do I get by saying, hey, write a book about Mr. Tillman? And they can write a book about Mr. Tillman.
They will. Write it in the form of Edgar Allan Poe.
There you go. Would you want to read that? I wouldn't.
Personally, not me.
No. But that's where it's going. And then a lot of it is, you're going to be hard to discern the difference. But I really think when it happens, it's going to be something weird about it. It's just something about the beauty and the value of a human soul and a human being that means something. And that's the value that, we're forgetting about.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a thing that's going to happen where like AI is going to become like the normal and all this AI stuff. But then there's going to be people who kind of like connoisseurs who like really want like high end stuff. They're like, you know what? I want this thing that was made by a human being. I want this quality thing that was made by the creativity of a human being. I think that's what's also going to happen. But it's going to be a big shift, unfortunately.
I think AI gonna get mad at that person and take them out.
Okay. You really think it's going to be a Terminator situation going on?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Yeah. And I think it's going to come in a form that we never imagined. It's not going to be like the robot. Like I said, a Tesla car is a robot.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're able to implant a being's mind in the car, it itself, or if it's all hooked together and they're communicating over the network,
Got you.
they're all in sync. It might be that one being or that one AI being controlling everything.
Quantum computing, I guess they call it now, or they become sentient. I think that's another thing.
That's the truth.
So, going back to how we talked about coming up with a solution for homelessness, right?
Mhm.
And like you're one man and you could figure it out, but people. So, do you think the same thing with AI? Like people realize this could happen and they can fix it, but they're choosing not to. What do you think?
Like I said, I think because money is the incentive.
Okay.
There are ways of controlling it in terms of like they have the IEEE, which are standards for all electronics, computer networking. So they have committees established already. But then you have your government stuff and military and intelligence stuff that's over and above that, right? So how do you control all those levels, even the stuff that's being done in secret? That's what my concern is. When I was in school in technology, they used to say that the military was 10 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
I don't know how many years they're ahead of us now, but I'm sure they're still ahead of us, which means that AI is way further ahead than what we know already. And I don't know if that's a good thing.
I agree. And it's interesting because I listened to this channel called, shout out to Black is the New Tech, and someone came up with that arguing saying like, the military is still ahead of us in technology. And the founder of the Black is the New Tech was saying, no, not really, because since we have the internet, everything comes on the internet. You can find everything quickly. What do you think?
No.
Right? They're still hiding. They still have. There's a reason why it's called top secret. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything's not on the internet. Trust me.
I like that. Everything's not on the internet.
No.
I like that. Danny, I want to get back to the city of San Bernardino.
Okay.
Right? You've been born and raised in San Bernardino. You've raised kids in the city of San Bernardino, right? What do you think is some of the big, and I think you may have mentioned it, what do you think is one of the biggest things that's missing in the city of San Bernardino that can help it thrive?
I think too many people benefit off of the state of San Bernardino. So you got folks that make money because there's poverty in San Bernardino. So they don't want to see that change.
Can you explain?
I mean, people get access to funding based on there being a high level of poverty in the city. So they might get property that they can build on at a reduced rate, or they could build something and the government will pay them money just to exist there. Uh, so it's not an incentive to ensure that there's a lot of success. But I really think just the fact that San Bernardino is so beautiful, even right now, the property values in San Bernardino are going up. You know what I mean? So uh, there's a lot of opportunity here. I think I love being here because I really love the fact that I can provide education to people that are living in poverty because I know I can have the ability to help their children get out of it with education. And that's a beautiful thing. So that's the reason why I love being on the school board because there's so many people that we help be successful and change their trajectory, and then generations to come will benefit from that based on me ensuring that they get a good education and exposure to things that they wouldn't if I wasn't on the board. We got kids going on field trips all over the country, all over the world. We got to pay for exchange programs. That's an investment in our generation. But in terms of the city, uh, I hope, I hope that they do better. But it's the same thing at the city level. You still got to people invest in campaigns to get people elected and that type of thing. And it's been proven that um, the folks that are supporting them financially don't really have um, what's best for the city at large at heart. That's my own personal opinion.
Got you. People are benefiting on the struggles of the city.
There you go. That's the perfect way of looking at it. Yep.
Terrible. But
Yeah, it's the reality.
but it's the reality, right? People,
Mm.
I remember.
And you gotta remember, they'll put a good front on it. They'll say, "Hey, we're doing this in the name of some nice person," but in the end, if you look behind the scenes, they got some financial backers that aren't from here, and they just playing people. It's happening right now. I'm not gonna name names, but it's happening right now.
Okay, I know. Don't we wish we had names, folks? Oh man, we wish we had the names. Don't we, though, folks? We won't pry, though. We won't pry.
Yeah.
We won't pry. So crazy. It reminds me because someone told me that whether a market is down or up, someone is benefiting from it.
That's right.
And so I always find it interesting and kind of go back to power. I just find it amazing for people who know how to capitalize on situations. But I wanted to ask you, since you've been dealing with kids and children, I can probably say for over 40 years, right?
hmm
Can you tell when a child has potential, but their grades aren't showing that they have potential?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. We created a whole school because of that. We a guy named Tony Dupree was on the board with me, and he heard about middle college. And
Okay.
we first did middle college. We did middle college for students who had high test scores but terrible grades. So you actually had kids who were testing advanced
Okay.
but had D's and F's on the report card. So you knew that the traditional education that we were giving them didn't work for them. And they had a whole bunch of potentials being wasted. So we created the middle college. And what middle college was, at 10th grade, you go there, but you're taking college classes at the same time you're taking high school classes. And so a lot of the students, when they graduate from high school, they also graduate with an AA degree. Yeah, so we're aware that different students learn in different ways. But yeah, you can spot potential in kids, and that's what our goal should be. Always looking for kids who should be doing better than what they are, and what are the tools to get them back on track.
What are some of the signs, like besides looking at like test scores? Is there any other signs besides that?
I'm not in schools
Okay.
every day, so I couldn't tell you what the actual signs are.
Got you,
No.
got you. Maybe I'll talk to your daughter about that. Maybe
There
she
you
might
go.
know.
She be the one.
We'll get her on.
Yes.
What's her name again?
Eva Tillman.
Eva. We'll get you on Eva soon.
She'll be great.
Yeah, we'll
Yes.
get you on Eva to talk about
Yes.
Savant Prep School and everything like
That's
that.
right.
Um, you know, we spoke a little bit about Black Future Leaders
Uh-huh.
and your involvement in that. What was its inception? Does it still exist today?
It does not exist. Lois
Okay.
Carson passed away in, I think, 2022.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned that.
I should have continued it, but I didn't because it's a lot of responsibility. I did it from 88 to 2022. How many years is that? 30-something years?
Yeah, it's 34 years.
34 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of responsibility. When you have kids, high school students at college at night, then you have to make sure you're not going to each other's rooms. Last thing I want was somebody to get pregnant.
Yeah, and I look. Danny Tillman got
Right.
people got pregnant on Danny Tillman's
Right.
watch.
So, over all those years, we had no instances of people getting pregnant or people getting molested. But I was young at the time, so I could help build the curriculum, get the people there, stay up late at night, walk the halls. After 30-something years, I don't have the ability to do it. Like, I'm on blood pressure medicine now.
Okay, we don't want someone to make that up go real quick.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't have the energy to do it anymore. Yeah. But it was a great program, great concept. But too, we didn't have the schools like we have right now, like Savant and other schools. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. I want to play a quick game with you. I want to know if
ahead.
you'd be interested in playing a game with us.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
All right. So, what it is I'm gonna say a word,
Okay,
and I want as soon as possible, whatever first thing that comes to your mind, give me an answer to that word.
okay,
You ready?
yeah.
All right. It's called Quick Slip. Here we go. Education,
Important.
procrastination,
That's me.
family,
Everything.
Sanford and Sons,
I love it.
John Woods,
First school board member in San Bernardino.
God,
Most important thing in my life.
limitations,
Yourself.
Black bodies,
Beautiful.
diversity,
Important.
San Bernardino,
I love it.
tech,
Wow. Complicated. But simple.
love it, Popeyes,
I don't like Popeyes.
anger,
I think it's normal.
anchor,
It's important to be anchored.
hope.
Overrated.
I love that. Thank you. That's Quick Slip. Can you explain why hope is overrated?
Because it takes more than hope to ensure somebody's going to be successful. People talk about giving hope. You got to give opportunities along with hope. And to me, it's the end result. If I give somebody hope, but they're not successful because I could have given them other tools along with the hope, then I don't think hope is enough.
You know, it makes me think about, I think there was a gentleman who ran his whole campaign off of hope. What was your thoughts on that gentleman? Talking about Barack Obama, by the way, Jay. Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's something that I think it motivates people, the hope part of it,
Mhm.
but it's the same thing. It's a perfect example. What are we really going to get out of it? It's not going to, it was hope and change. The change part didn't happen because change is not going to be permanent. It's always going to be a battle. I give Barack Obama credit just for the Affordable Care Act. They called it Obamacare.
Yeah.
Before that, kids that were 26, you couldn't stay on your parents' insurance till you were 26.
You off.
And if you had some particular ailments, they wouldn't give you insurance. I think people take for granted how big it was that he got us the insurance package that we have today. It saved lives. It's saving lives today.
You know, I heard some people talk about, shout out to you, Barack Obama, for that Affordable Care Act. But I've heard people, mostly in the Black community, talk about Barack Obama didn't do anything for Black Americans. He did stuff for the LGBT, he did stuff for the immigrants, but he didn't do anything for the Black American community. Do you agree with that?
Barack Obama just getting elected was a big deal. His dad was from Kenya. His mom was white. So he didn't have the same experience as a lot of African Americans. But when somebody got mad at him and they didn't know him in America, they would call him the N-word like they would call me the N-word.
Mm-hmm.
There were folks that were mad at him because he was president because he looked like you and me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a big step for him to assume that position to prove that we were capable of being president of the United States of America. people lose sight of the fact that there's nothing logical about the color of somebody's skin. It really doesn't predict anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's just we have more melanin than somebody else. It was all a scam to try to ease people's conscience to justify treating human beings like animals during slavery. But they knew even then that we had the intellect and the potential to do anything that they could do. But it was a business decision for folks to make a whole bunch of money. You know what I mean? But the bottom line is the fact that Barack became president just helped get rid of some of those stereotypes. And he had Michelle. You know, you don't get more of a real sister than Michelle Obama. So she became the first African American first lady. That's a big deal. So I don't take that for granted. We have to make progress in steps. You know what I mean? So one day, I still think the next goal is to have a black president who is a descendant of slaves.
Gotcha. FBA, as they call them.
Is that what they call it?
They call them Foundation Black Americans. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know what it
Yeah,
is.
that's the new term they're using right now.
That's a big deal, and especially in America because we've been through a whole lot of pain and struggle because of our ancestry and the fact that our parents were people that were enslaved.
Do you think that'll ever happen?
I don't know. I don't know. When Barack became president, it goes back to the people, there's groups that pick people, right? Because if it was just a natural thing, then it would have been a black person that parents and grandparents or great-grandparents were descendants of slavery. Just because there's more of them in the country than there are black folks like Barack, whose dad was from Kenya and his mom was white. It's just more of us, right? So it's obvious somebody made the decision they didn't want to have a black person who was, this is my own personal opinion, who have a black person who were descendants of people who had been enslaved. So, I don't know who those folks are that are calling those shots, but nothing's coincidental and nothing's accidental. You know what I mean? So I don't know what people's fears are about a black person like me reaching certain levels of power, but there are fears of that.
Because didn't Jesse Jackson run for president at one point?
He ran, never had a chance to win.
What would you say, just off the top of your head, what would be the fear of having someone like yourself become president, someone, that we call FBAs today? What do you think? What do you think the fear would be?
I really think that somebody like me. Well, I don't want to answer that.
No? Oh God! Come on! Why not? Why not? Why don't you want to answer it?
Because this is an opinion, and it's not based in facts.
Yeah.
And so
And that's why I asked it for what's Danny's opinion about it, right? And that's kind of wanted to know because you have wisdom that can be insightful for people. No? Okay. Sure, no problem. And we'll leave it at that, And I believe I heard you mentioned, and I think it was on the Wilmer Foundation. They're doing like a black collection at the Cal State San Bernardino. Alma, right? I forget her name. Anyway.
Amina Carter? Amina Carter.
Yes. Yes. And I believe you mentioned in there that there's a huge amount of people that are from San Bernardino who built their skills in San Bernardino, but then they leave and they don't come back to bring those skills here.
Sure.
Is that still happening today?
Oh, yes, no doubt about it.
Okay. Why? Why do you think that's such a big thing?
I think a lot of people have had, as a child, they may have bad experiences in San Bernardino.
Okay.
And so, their goal is to get away from San Bernardino as quick as possible. For me, I actually thrived in San Bernardino and had fun in San Bernardino, and even in the chaos. So, but everybody's not built the same way.
Yeah.
And so I know that it could be a rough place, and people can be mean to you here in San Bernardino. And so if you get a chance to leave, you will. San Bernardino, if you look at the numbers, in terms of violence, it is a violent place. People talk about violence in schools. We have violence in schools because their parents is violent.
Mhm.
So, it's a culture of violence. You know what I mean? And I remember growing up, my dad telling me if somebody hits you, you try to take their head off. That's not the right thing. It's not the right thing to tell a kid. You know what I mean? Really, you should try to find a way to de-escalate it and, make sure your child is safe, right?
Yeah.
But that violent mindset exists. You know what I mean? So I can understand why people go away and don't want to come back. I love San Bernardino. I think it's beautiful. I love the people. I got a lot of family here. I have some great memories. I just love the location in terms of being able to go to LA or Big Bear or Palm Springs or Riverside or San Diego. It's just
Vegas.
Vegas, everything. I don't go to Vegas. I can't stop gambling.
Okay.
But, I haven't been to Vegas in a long time.
Got you. You a craps table man?
Nah, slot machines.
slots?
Actually,
Okay.
and blackjack.
Okay.
I lose a lot of money in blackjack. I did. I don't go.
Okay. You know your weaknesses.
Exactly.
Okay.
But no, I love San Bernardino. But and there are some folks that come back to San Bernardino and give back, and so you got to appreciate those folks too.
Shout out to like Jay Daniels, right?
Exactly.
You know, it makes me think when you say it's violent. Like it makes me think about gangs,
Yeah.
right, in San Bernardino, and then it also makes me think about gangs in schools.
Yeah.
Do you guys have to deal with that issue at all with
No doubt
gangs?
about it.
Okay. How do you guys deal with that? What's the situation with that?
We have some programs that deal specifically with bullying, but then you have security, and then you have teachers and even classified staff that work with our students and try to de-escalate that kind of stuff. You got a bunch of community people. You mentioned Terrence Stone. You got other folks in the community that try to work with our young folks to convince them that there's better ways. And then I try to do it in terms of making kids successful in education and then showing them that there are options and being real with them. I have a cousin who's younger. He just graduated so he's my cousin's son, and he reached out to me just the other day. About ready to graduate from college. He went to college in New Mexico, wants to come back here and work. But I told him he got to make sure he can be safe. And if he can't be safe here in San Bernardino, then he should leave. Because if he was involved with the wrong folks, San Bernardino could be a very, very dangerous place. So, but he has to make the decision himself. You know what I mean? And that's what I told him. Because if you dealing with certain entities, it is dangerous and it's hard to get out of it. So the best way to do it is just to leave. I've helped people leave San Bernardino who had their life threatened, and they actually, Mr. Tillman, somebody said they're gonna kill me, and I asked them, "Are those people killers?" And they said yes. And I said, "You need to leave town." They said, "When?" "Now." And it saved lives by telling folks to do that.
Thank goodness they took your wisdom, right?
Yes.
Because some people they be playing around with that.
Yes.
They don't take it for.
Well, I don't mean to brag, but
Not bragging if it's the truth.
but it takes wisdom for folks to call me.
That's
Right?
number one.
Exactly.
Okay.
The fact that they call me means that they're sincere about trying to do something different because they know my reputation. You know what I mean? And so just the fact you made the phone call means you sincere about trying to solve your problem. And so I don't get a lot of phone calls, but the ones I do, it's easy to solve the problems and help people because I think they know me and my reputation precedes me. Whatever it is, I just know based on the phone calls I get that people are sincere and they call me when they really want help.
Isn't that good to have a good reputation out here? Amen. So, Danny Tillman, Mr. Tillman, number one, I want to thank you for all your work you've done for all these years in the community, and you've been raising two lovely ladies, and I mentioned a son as well. Thank you for everything. You mentioned that you can't go to Vegas because that blackjack table will take
Take your money.
take
That's right.
Next thing you know, your deeds on the table.
Yeah.
But what's one thing, and it could be the most simplest thing in the world, that most people don't know about you, even close family and friends? What's one thing? It could be anything.
You don't know about me?
Yeah, that people don't know about you.
Well, it wouldn't be. Let me say this. There's two Danny Tillmans.
Okay, talk to us.
There's a Danny Tillman that's the public personality that people know, and then there's the Danny Tillman who just likes talking trash and saying crazy stuff to people.
Okay.
And those are guys, and I golf with people and stuff like that. So there's two totally different people. But the fact, I give you an example. I was at a school board meeting one time, and somebody got to the mic and said, I can't believe you talked to Mr. Tillman like that. And Mr. Tillman, I apologize for him, and I hope you don't get discouraged and this and that. And I was just inside just thinking, dude, you just don't know me. I could care less about what people say about me because, growing up, all I did was talk trash about people. You know what I mean? So talking trash, words really don't bother me. I grew up, my grandmother always said, she saw me mad one time I was a little kid. And she said, what's wrong with you? I said, well, Grandma, he said this about me. And she said, little Dan, they talked about Jesus Christ. What do you think they're going to say about you? And at that time, that really resonated with me because, in our community, Jesus Christ was perfect. He was the only man that walked the earth that was perfect. And people still found negative stuff to say about him. So it really put it in perspective, no matter how good and how great the work you do is, somebody always going to say something bad about you.
Period. That's
just the reality of life. So you can't get upset about words. And so I really don't give words and negative words a lot of value. It's fun to me for somebody even having enough nerve to say something about me. Now, when I'm at a school board meeting, the only bad thing is I can't say nothing back. Right?
Yeah.
But I be thinking it.
Right? So I'm going to write that one down.
You know what I mean? But words don't really bother me.
Okay, only if Danny Tillman had a Twitter. That'd be.
That's why I don't do Twitter.
Okay. Maybe when you're off the board, you can start getting a Twitter account. Just go off the walls.
Nah, because people snap. I don't know out there trying to kill me.
Okay, I got you.
People get violent.
Okay, they do.
They get violent. I'm not trying to get killed over something I said about somebody. It's the whole thing with the Will Smith and
the Chris Rock.
Mm-hmm. If you're talking trash about somebody's wife, you got to understand somebody might snap. Will Smith snapped. He went up there and slapped him. As somebody that talks trash, you realize that might happen. There's certain people you don't talk trash about. And to me, if you're going to keep doing it, at least have some security.
Yeah, period.
He should have some security on the stage.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what all the comedians could learn from the whole Will Smith and Chris Rock. Have some security if you're going to talk about people. You can't pretend like it's benign. Words hurt.
Powerful.
Why would you be mad about Will slapping Chris, but you weren't upset about Chris saying mean things to Jada? Words hurt. I'm not saying if somebody talk trash to you, you got the right to assault them and hit them. But as a trash talker, you realize you can say some stuff to make folks want to hit you.
Period.
That's just the reality.
Yeah.
And certain people you don't say stuff to because some people are more violent than others.
Yeah.
You got to know your crowd.
That part. That's funny. It makes me think of two things. It makes me think of like people should start telling women you shouldn't think that not every man's not going to hit you back if you hit a man, because some men don't care and they will hit you back. Right? And it also makes me think that
I'm not gonna go don't hit women, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'm not saying go ahead with
you said that. I ain't said that.
I'm saying that, some men were raised to like, hey, if you hit me, I don't care if you're a woman or a man,
somewhere. You're right.
I'm gonna hit you back.
Yeah. But you're gonna try not to hit a woman. Go ahead.
Yes, of course.
Try to avoid the situation. Yeah.
Yes, some of us are raised differently with education. I mean, treat women with respect. But and then it also makes me think that I remember hearing that Will and Jada were like having some type of like, they weren't even together at that time. They were kind of like separate.
Yeah.
But he still responded. But going back to something that people may not know about you, what's I guess, besides the the trash talking, Danny. Is there anything, another little thing that we can get on that side of Danny
I
that
don't know.
some people
A lot of people don't know I play the drums in church.
we know now though? But we know now.
Yeah, I play
So what
the-
else? What else we?
I already said I like to golf.
Okay.
Like to walk at the beach. I love family. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I love family. I love to have family events. But I will say this: that no one would know this. When I have family events, and I just had one. They had a game night, 50 people.
Wow.
I will lead the crowd and go upstairs and take a nap.
There it is. Dang. Now they know. Now you can't do it no more. Now you can't do it no more.
They know.
They know.
They
Okay.
say, "Where's Danny?"
Oh, he upstairs.
He's upstairs asleep.
Got you. And you come right back down after?
I'll come back down after I take my nap.
Hey, sometimes you got to rest from people.
That's right. Exactly.
You guys kind of dream. I got to come back a little later. Danny, I want to thank you for being on the Empire. What's some current projects that you're working on, whether that's, with the board, with the family, personal life? What's some current projects that you're working on?
Yeah, it's always, on the board, we always have issues that come up. You never know what they're going to be. So I just love being there to solve those problems. In terms of, I work right now, what fills my day the most is helping my mother. I help another elderly lady manage. I have a father-in-law who's in assisted living, so I go there and cut his hair and stuff like that to help him out. I love doing that kind of stuff right now. I got an aunt my aunt, Mary Francis, who I help out. She don't have any kids, and she's blessed me in life, and so I feel onus to help her. So really my calling right now is to help a lot of people, elderly people. I love doing it. It's not work to me, and you can make a big difference. And I'm hopefully paying it forward. So,
I was thinking the same
so
thing.
when I get old like that, somebody will come up and help me. You know what I mean?
I was thinking the same thing. Luckily, you got some kids behind you.
Exactly. Hopefully. Yeah. I'd be nice to my great nieces and nephews too. You never know which one gonna step up.
Yeah, you never know, right? Hey, they listen to today. We got it on tape.
That's right.
We got it on tape. Danny, again, thank you for all your work. Thank you for everything. And I do agree with the paying it forward with the elderly. I think it's important to take care of elders. I was actually writing in another book that I'm writing about the importance of respecting our elders and taking care of our elders, because eventually, sooner than later, you'll become an elder, and
Right.
you would like the same thing for yourself.
That's right.
But Mr. Tillman, let's say 100 years pass by, 250 years pass by. What would you like your empire to look like, whether that's education, family, politics, information, technology? What would you like your empire to look like 250 years from now?
Just people helping other folks, being successful, and loving each other. Just the people who are the most successful, never forgetting where they came from, and going back to help people who are less fortunate, allow them to be successful too. That's what it's all about. Life is short.
It goes by quicker than we think.
Exactly.
That's your empire.
That's right.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Danny, thank you so much for being here. Can you please tell everybody how they can contact you, maybe get some help from you, some assistance, some guidance, maybe support you in your endeavors? Can you please let everybody know how they can do that?
Yeah, it can. I give you my cell phone number, 909-800-0318. 909-800-0318. If I don't recognize the number, sometimes I want to answer, but you leave a message, I get your message, I call you back.
There it is, folks, and I'll put it in the description so that way you can reach out to him. Don't send him any dirty pictures, ladies, or you can, whatever. But be respectful. Reach out if you have any questions. I'm certain he can connect you with somebody. He's a very well-connected man. Obviously, you got other information in here today. I want to thank Danny Tillman for being on. I want to thank all you guys for listening and watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, comment down below, share this video. If you want to contribute and help keep this work that we're doing here, and if you really like the work that we're doing, we have things like CASHAPP, which is $THEE Empire Podcast. We also have PayPal and other things in the description. And I want to thank you all. And is there anything else, Danny, you want to say before we get out of here?
No, you got my number, so if you're looking at getting a job in the school district or a school district or the county, I'd love to help you navigate the system. I love people call me and say, hey, I looked on the website, or I want to work for the county. I have these credentials, and how do you get in? Because it's simple. So I love helping folks become successful. So if you're looking at getting in San Bernardino County or the school district, give me a call.
Simple as that, folks. And again, it'll be in the description. And again, I want to thank you all. My name is Antonio D. Miles, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Thank you, Antonio. Appreciate you.
Peace.
I say it's my duty. Yeah. Is it my will? Yeah. To do what? Yeah. To do is right. I say.
All right. Thank you, man.